champion. And just like he said, and he talked about his family, saying that 2025 was the year, I talked and I said with my family that 2025 is my year.
Ladies and gentlemen, boxing aficionados and YouTube scrollers alike, gather round as we unravel one of the most tantalizing matchups in the modern ring, a towering saga of power,
and subscribe.
Patience, and sheer unyielding will. Picture this: Jorge Garcia Perez, affectionately nicknamed Chino by those who know the sweet science best. Because apparently everyone in boxing needs a nickname now, or you might as well be punching air, takes on the sleek, undefeated dynamo, Xander Zayas. Zayas, the Puerto Rican prince of precision, the lightning bolt with gloves, holds a spotless record and the crowd's adoration over at the iconic Madison Square Garden. But standing in his way is Perez. Perez, a seasoned warrior with enough knockout dust in his veins to fill a small warehouse, is armed with something far more dangerous than just raw power. He's got height, reach, experience, and the kind of fight IQ that whispers upset in the ears of gamblers and casual fans alike. Now let's unpack the weaponry that Chino brings into the ring, because folks, you don't just walk into the ring against an unbeaten kid and expect to walk out with a smile without bringing your A game, your B game, and your Z game, whatever that is. Standing at a solid 6 feet, Perez enjoys a modest but critical height advantage over Zayas, who clocks in around 5'10". This 2-inch difference, while maybe sounding trivial to the layman, is akin to having an extra 2 inches of pizza crust in a world starving for crust. In boxing terms, it means Perez has roughly that much more leverage and reach to keep his opponent at arm's length, and he absolutely must capitalize on it. His jab, the veteran's secret handshake, needs to function like a metronome, consistent and sharp, to disrupt Zayas' rhythm and keep the Puerto Rican better half an arm's length away from unleashing those slick and often brutal mid-range combinations that have the crowd chanting with every thunderous punch landed. But hold on to your gloves, because the jab is only chapter 1 in the Chino playbook. When the fight inevitably descends into the intimate chaos of the clinch, because boxers have this odd love affair with getting ridiculous close despite all the talk about distance, Perez's height becomes a strategic advantage again. Exchanging short, nasty uppercuts at close quarters is his ticket to keep Zayas honest. The kind of clinch work where he plants his feet, drives those uppercuts to the body and head, and saps Zayas' will to close the space without getting keeled like a banana. This uppercut maneuver isn't just for show. It's a slow, merciless body count against a fighter who thrives on mobility, expecting to dance around the ring while landing pinpoint combinations like a hummingbird on espresso. Speaking of power, the numbers don't lie, even if we usually like to hear them whisper sweet nothings or shout dramatic warnings from the sidelines. Perez's knockout rate is a fearsome headline on its own, nearly 79%. That means out of every fight he walks into, over 3/4 end with his opponent visiting the canvas, contemplating the philosophical question, why didn't I just take up chess? Compare that to Zayas' already respectable 62%, and you start to see that while Zayas is dangerous, Perez's punches carry a little extra thud. The path to victory for Perez is clear and brutal. Methodically dismantle the body. This isn't just about throwing wild punches, hoping to hit something. No, it's an intelligent, measured attack on the ribs and liver to sweep Zayas' legs out from underneath him, metaphorically speaking. Body shots, when landed correctly and consistently, don't just hurt, they slow down, sap stamina, and melt away the quickness that Zayas depends on so heavily. Of course, bodywork is a marathon, not a sprint. Perez must carefully balance his output to avoid burning himself out too early, a mistake many punchers make when the adrenaline and crowd noise whisper reckless promises. In a classic Mexican boxing fashion, Chino must keep the pressure relentless. Think volume. Think a barrage so persistent that Zayas can't find a gap to breathe in. The strategy calls for cutting off the ring, dooming Zayas' famed agility into oblivion. If Perez corrals his opponent against the ropes like a savvy predator, the speed advantage of Zayas shrinks dramatically. No fancy footwork or dazzling defense can thrive when you're pinned into a zone of constant punishment. And once trapped, it's time to unleash combinations that flow like a manic woodpecker tapping a tree, rapid, penetrating, and destined to find soft spots. These multi-punch flurries following the absorption of a hit require a warrior mentality, a dogged spirit to trade blows back and forth, and conditioning carved from the fires of many grueling training camps. Which brings us to the elephant in the room, the experience factor. There's something to be said for weathering storms, and Perez has navigated the tempest of tough opposition more times than Zayas. 37 fights versus 21 is experience symmetry akin to comparing an old, weathered sea captain bearing scars from many battles to a young but promising sailor whose chart is still mostly pristine. That recent split decision win over Charles Conwell, a fight that stretched Perez's endurance and mental toughness, stands as a testament to his durability. Endurance matters, especially once you pass the 9th round, where many fate-deciding moments quietly tip the scales. Zayas, while brilliant, remains relatively untested. That might be the crack in the armor, where Perez's veteran savvy could dictate the fight's narrative. Now, to temper Perez's optimism, we peek into the harsh realities awaiting him. Betting markets, with their calculator-like coldness, have positioned him as the long shot, with roughly an 11% implied probability, a number that might prompt you to question your life choices more than once if you decide to back him. Why? Because Zayas brings speed and technical polish that dazzles even the toughest critics. His speed could exploit typical vulnerabilities in Perez's brawling style. Those fleeting defensive lapses, where a wild punch or a greedy step forward might open a door wide enough to invite a brutal counterpunch. The crowd will be a rice and pepper mix of noise and encouragement for Zayas at Madison Square Garden, an energy that can buoy the younger fighter's confidence and add extra pressure for Perez to perform flawlessly with no margin for error. As for the mental game, it is a duel within the duel. Perez boldly declares, "2025 is our year," a catchphrase with enough bravado to fill a soap opera script. But Zayas is every bit as motivated. After all, maintaining an unbeaten record at home is more than pride, it's legacy on the line. This psychological exchange shapes every jab, every feint, every feigned limp or shift in rhythm. Mental fortitude might ultimately be as critical as skill or power, especially as exhaustion and pain begin to blur the lines of conscious thought late in the fight. So, what does victory for Perez look like? It's a blueprint of disciplined aggression, pressure that never relents from the first bell to the final lap. A surgical attack on the body to drain the fountain of youth that is Zayas' stamina, and flawless execution of his natural power as a counterpuncher. It's much like the story of David and Goliath, except both are wearing gloves and capeless superheroes. The uphill climb is steep, the odds daunting, but Perez's knockout power and strategic approach ensure that the fight isn't just a fight. It's a riveting narrative that will captivate fans across the world, showcasing the eternal dance of grit versus speed, experience versus youth, and the compelling human spirit beneath the helmets. And so, as fight night draws near, remember this is more than a contest of
and
fists.
subscribe.
It's a chess match where every punch counts, every step echoes, and every second in the ring carves a story down into the annals of boxing folklore. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned, because when Chino squares off with the indomitable Xander Zayas, we aren't just watching a fight, we are witnessing the clash of titans, where glory hangs in the balance, and legends may very well be born or broken. In essence, the Perez versus Zayas clash is a marvel of contrasts: pressure versus speed, experience versus youth, power versus finesse, and an underdog's gritty resolve versus a prodigy's polished talent. It's a contest destined to be recounted with awe, debate, and the kind of passion that makes boxing the enthralling spectacle it is. Stay tuned to witness this riveting story unfold, where every jab is a chapter, every combination a plot twist, and every round a battle of wills fiercely fought in the squared circle.